Hey, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today? I hope you're doing great. I'm doing great. I want to make sure you can hear me. Go and hit that Q&A box for me, will you? And give me a big old woo-hoo. Let me know you can hear me. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Woo you. Steve. Huh? Everybody else? Yeah, woo-hoo. All right, there we go. Hooray. Got a small crowd today, huh? Yeah, it's probably because I'm doing it on the wrong day. People get in the habit of these things. It's John. What's up, John? Hi, how are you? All right, friends. Well, we have great things to talk about here today. Great, great things. Woohoo, Tomas. All right. Today we're going to talk about butterflies and using the Greeks. Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Before we get started, I need to point out that options are not for everyone. You should read characteristics and risks of standardized options. Oh my goodness. Before trading, you can get a copy of that by emailing investor services at theocc.com. Don't trade with money you're not prepared to lose. And everything we're doing here today is providing generalized information, which is not specific to your specific situation. I don't know your specific situation, so we're just trying to make you smarter so you can make your own decisions, hopefully much, much better. Now, I see some of our usual friends in here, but I see some new faces too. So allow myself to introduce myself. My name is Dan Passarelli. I am an author of two of the most popular option trading books. Trading Option Greeks is the one I'm most known for. The Market Taker's Edge is the other one. And my third one is going to be out in, let's see, January, February, March, April, 3 months. Do you believe that? That is, gosh darn cuckoo bananas. I can't wait for the next book to come out. It's going to be great. Mark your calendars for April 28th. I'm actually going to start a wait list, but I don't have that set up yet. I am also a trader. Been trading. I was trading in college. Well, I was buying mutual funds in college because, that's all I really knew how to do back then. But I was a big nerd. I worked my way through college. I was the guy who showed up in a leather biker jacket and a briefcase. And I worked, paid for my own college, didn't borrow any money, even had some money left over, and I invested it. Isn't that crazy? Do kids do that these days? They were not taught about money in school, which puts young adults these days at a severe disadvantage. I don't know why they don't teach economics in school anymore. Keep kids ignorant about money. Weird. But I'm also the president and founder of Market Taker Mentoring. Market Taker Mentoring is the global leader in option trader education. We have student traders in over 50 countries. And we've put tens of thousands of students through our process. It's a good process. I am also a trading industry collaborator. I work with all the best option trading related firms in really the world. And this little stinker wants to join us. And worked with all the major options exchanges, the best options friendly brokerage firms like Firstrade, BTW, and even software companies and such. And I'm a family man. You see my little runt dog here on my lap? He's a lap dog. Sits on somebody's lap or next to somebody all day long. I took her for I can't even spell it, but you know, that word that starts with a W and ends with a K, just took her. If I say it, her little ears prick up. If I spell it, she knows how to spell it. But yeah, me and my wife Kathleen took our two little rents out, and we've got our 2 adult children. And I do other things for fun besides trading. I'm a runner, foodie, traveler, music person. But enough about me. Let's talk about the important person here. Let's talk about you. So we're going to talk about great stuff to hear today. And as we talk about it, there's other stuff that will help you in your option trader journey that you should also follow up, because when it comes to option trading, the more you learn, the more you earn. And so when we're done here today, I highly encourage you to go to markettaker.com, 2 T's in a row, and click the top right-hand green button, join free, and you'll get lots of great stuff, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So let's talk about the matter at hand here, butterflies and using the Greeks. A butterfly can be used with calls or puts. When used with calls, the best way to think about it is buying one call debit spread and selling one call credit spread on the same underlying and the same expiration. The short strike in each spread is shared, and much of the time that is at the money. Why would we do something so crazy as this? Well, I'm going to tell you why, friends. Our short-term objective is to profit from theta while losing little to stock price movement, statistical volatility. Long-term, we want to watch the stock close between both break-even points. All right, what am I talking about? Well, this is what I'm talking about. Let's say we buy one, expiration date doesn't really matter, October, 41, 43, 45 call butterflies at 30 cents. So what are we really doing? We're buying one 41 call and selling one 43 call. That is a call debit spread. And then we are selling another 43 call. So now we're short 2 of them, and buying one 45 call. That is a call credit spread. So we really end up with something that looks kind of like, you know, here's our debit spread. Here's our credit spread. But something kind of magical happens. It's not technically magical, but let's get rid of those. But back to the mouse. We can only lose what we pay for the spread. And in this case, we're paying a total debit of 30 cents. So the most I can lose is 30 cents. But you see, the most I can make is $1.70. This is very typical with butterflies. I have a pretty small potential loss. And if things go perfectly, I have a pretty big potential profit. The most I can make is the difference between either wing and the guts minus the premium paid. I'm throwing new terms out there here for you, right? Max gain is 45 minus 43 minus 30 cents. So what is a wing? Somebody at some point, I guess, thought that this looks like a butterfly. They were probably on mushrooms or something when they came up with that idea, because it doesn't really look anything like a butterfly. But that's what they thought, I guess. So this is the wing, and this is the wing. Let's annotate that again. Wing, bink, 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 and wing. Okay. And this part here between the wings is the guts. Guts, right? So the most you can lose is if we're below the low strike on this wing or above the high strike on this wing. Why? Well, because since all these are calls, if we're below 41 at expiration, which is what this is a picture of, this is the stock at expiration, all the options would expire. And whatever I paid for it, which in this case is 30 cents, would be lost. If we're all the way above 45 at expiration, then what? Well, the 41 calls are in the money and by at least $4. And we all know, or at least should know, that the Options Clearing Corporation exercises any option, any long option that is in the money by at least a penny. So we would exercise the 41 calls, get assigned on 243 calls, and exercise 145 calls. So we're exercising 2 calls, 41 and 45, getting assigned on 2 calls, 43. So we buy 100 shares, sell 100 shares, sell 100 shares, buy 100 shares. We have no position above 45 on this one. So all of our options go away. We don't end up with any stock, and we lose what we paid. The guts in the middle is where if we're above 41 but below 43, we're long shares of stock. And the higher it goes, the more we make, up to $43. And then we end up short 100 shares. So we start losing from that max. This is like $2 higher, right? we paid 30 cents for the butterfly. So this is $2 higher. We made $2 on the 41 calls minus the 30 cents we paid for the spread. So it's max profit of $1.70, but above 43, but below 45, we're now short 100 shares. So that profit starts receding until we get up to 45. Then we stop the bleeding. So we got some break-even points here, like right here. What is that? Well, that is this. The downside break-even equals the lowest strike plus the premium paid. So 41. And that makes sense, right? Because if we exercise the 41 calls, we're long 100 shares, but we don't actually start making money on that 100 shares until we cover the 30 cents we paid for it. So 41 plus 30, our break even is $41.30. The upside break even is the highest strike price minus the premium paid. So 45 minus 30 is 44.70. All right, get it? Got it? Good. Let's erase this. Now, undo. Okay. So I'm now going to tell you the things that no one else tells you. If you have traded butterflies before and you're like, I don't know, I don't see what the big deal is, these don't really work great, then probably the reason for that is that you're trading them with too much time until expiration. These are best traded with less than 2 weeks until expiration. I would actually say less than 10 days, really, but let's just say 2 weeks. Why? Well, because how do we make money on this? We make money on it from theta. And here's the thing. Theta is kind of a funny thing. If you look at like the theta of options listed on leaps, you can go, yeah, theta starts to work fast. It starts to work faster, but it's different among the strikes, John. If you look at the theta on leaps and you go like, 5% up and 5% down, all the thetas are about the same. They're pretty similar. But if you look at the theta on a 1 week option and go 5% up and 5% down, the ones that are at the money are huge thetas, but the ones that are in or out of the money, the thetas are very, very small. So when there's more than 2 weeks, the theta of the wing strikes is bigger, and those are the ones you're long, so those are the ones you're paying. So the theta of a butterfly with more than 2 weeks works out to be very, very small. Yeah, the difference in the change of theta among the strikes. This is the kind of stuff nobody tells you, but I'm telling you, because I want you to be a great trader. So when there's very little time till expiration and we're near the short strike, like under 2 weeks, theta gets big and it starts really benefiting us. But here's the thing, how do you lose when it comes to a butterfly? Well, if you're below the lowest wing strike or above the highest wing strike, right? And the more time until expiration, the more of a chance there is for the stock to move. So it's like more than 2 weeks, you have less profit because the theta is lower, but still all the same risk every day. And because there's more days, you have more risk, lower profit, more risk. It doesn't make sense to trade them with more than 2 weeks. The trade won't profit. I mean, you won't see barely any profit per day until you're in that 2-week window. But you can lose if a big move occurs. These can be directional or neutral. So this is another thing that a lot of people don't talk about. Some people do. Directional butterflies can be massively powerful, massively powerful. We've got a scanner called Wing Spread Genius that whenever a professional trader anywhere in the world makes a big trade, it hits our scanner. We buy that data from the SIBO. It costs literally thousands of dollars every month. But we offer it to our students, which helps me offset the cost. And so basically you get all that information for barely anything. Small percentage of what I pay. You know, it's like a couple $100 a month, you get that, which is pretty darn amazing since it costs me several thousand a month. But sometimes on Wing Spread Genius, we see directional butterflies. Not all the time, but sometimes. Why? Because professional traders are smart. Professional traders always focus on keeping their risk small and their profit high. Directional butterflies can be even cheaper to buy. And since the maximum profit is the distance between the guts and the wing minus what you pay, consequently, the maximum profit is higher. Wow. And there are sometimes when you see these pros risking like pennies and they can make dollars. And I'll tell you what, since they're professional traders, they're pretty logically planned out trades that make massive sense, and a lot of them work out. So I like to follow those when I see them. The strikes relative to the stock price can be varied. When you're trading a directional butterfly, you want the target price to be the guts, and then the wings to be whatever the wings are. So if you think the stock is going to go higher, you set the gut strike at a higher price. If you think it's going to be lower, you set the gut price at a lower price than where the stock is. And you tend to use puts instead of calls. Now, the strengths of directional butterflies is this. Very low premium, so it's low risk, highly leveraged reward. And with some of the directional ones, because you're risking so little, you actually can. I see sometimes the professionals will go against what I just said about neutral butterflies, like at the money butterflies, and they will go longer out in time because they need the time for the stock to move to get there. And, you know, here's the thing. If you're making a trade where you risk 7 cents and you can make $1.93, you can lose on half of them. You can lose on 75% of them. You can lose on 90% of them. And you can still make great money. These can sometimes be high probability. The high probability ones are actually typically direction neutral. Oh, but since they're out of the money or in the money, but typically out of the money, theta that you lose, you're actually paying theta, is a very small concern. Ideally, they're 2 weeks or less, but like I said, they don't necessarily always have to. And again, make sure you write this down if you're taking notes. The short strike should coincide with the price target at expiration. Let's say we're expecting, and this is just an example, we're expecting NVIDIA to rise to $195 by Friday. Okay. And it's at 186 when we're doing this. And again, these prices are not current. Put this together, I think, a couple of days ago. So this is a directional butterfly. You think the stock's going to go up $9, which is about 5% by Friday. So here's what we would do. Where do we think the stock's going to go? 195. Where is the stock? About 186 or so. It's where the colors change here, right? So we could do the 192.5, buy the 192.5 calls, sell 2 of the 195 calls, and buy 1 of the 197.5 calls. The Greeks are this. So basically, if we add 32.6 cents plus 19.4 cents, that comes out to 52 cents that we're paying. And if we double 25.4 cents, that comes out to about 51 cents that we're collecting. So because the nearest strike is the 192 calls and they're long, we actually pay theta, but it's only $1 a day theta. Whereas if I was to buy calls, if I was to buy like the 192.5 calls, I'd be paying 32.5 cents a day theta. Here, I'm paying 1 cent a day theta. Much better trade, right? Or no, this is delta. Sorry. Delta. I'm looking at the wrong ones. Why didn't somebody say something in Q&A? Theta. This is about 20 cents. This is about 15 cents. So that's about 35 cents a day that we're paying, buying this one. And 17.3 cents is 34.5 cents a day that we're collecting. So we're paying half a cent theta. Let's go back to that delta that I was mistaking for theta a second ago. Even though it's only a 1 delta, it doesn't matter. If we get up to the 195 strike, at expiration, that is where the P&L diagram has that TP, right? So that's where we're going to make the maximum profit. So what I want to impress upon you here is that we're getting a massive benefit from theta, because if I was to buy the 192.5 calls, I'd be paying about 20 cents a day in theta. Here, I'm only paying a half a cent a day in theta. I'm only paying 24 cents, and I can make $2.50. It can be worth $2.50. So I'm risking like 10% of what I can make. And the delta is weird, because it looks like I don't have a lot of directional exposure, which is why I'm doing the trade, but I actually do. This, again, is stuff that people don't tell you. You really, really have to know your Greeks inside and out to be good at trading butterflies. So, why trade the fly? Low risk, high leverage. Small move required to break even. All I got to do is be 24 cents above 192.5, and I break even. Now, I do want to call attention to something here for you. And this is very, very important. the stock is almost never going to be at that shared strike price at expiration. So your maximum profit is $2.26, but you're never going to make $2.26. So that's a little bit of a fallacy. Your maximum loss is 24 cents, and you can lose 24 cents if you just do nothing and don't manage the trade. But you're almost never going to make your maximum profit. But that's okay. You don't need to make 10 times your risk. If you make 5 times your risk, it's still a great trade. And that is a big swath. Here you're making about 10 times your risk if you're here. But if you're between here and here, about halfway down, you can still make about 5 times your risk. That's super powerful, man. Super powerful. Now, let's compare this with other strategies. We risk 24 cents. Our maximum reward is 226, but really, hey, I've got this big range where I can make like $1.25 or something like that. 5 times my gain, my risk. If I were to buy the 192.5 call, I'm risking 10 times the amount. So if I'm wrong, I lose 10 times as much, but my reward is unlimited. The thing is, if I just buy a call, if I overshoot, it goes higher than 195, which is my target, where I think it'll be. I still make money and I make more money. But I'm sort of like, I've got this range when it comes to my profit area with the butterfly. If I overshoot too much, I'm back in loss territory. But the loss is so much smaller. I can overshoot on, 75% of my trades. It's fine. If I buy the February, the 195 call, I risk so much more. And if it would be silly to buy the 195 call if I think it's going to 195, right? Because if it does go just to 195 and I hold it all the way to expiration, it expires and I lose. I'm right and I lose money. But that's why in this example here, I'm saying the February, which is going to be about 3 weeks longer term than the January 30th, I would try to make my money in the short term on delta. I would not hold it all the way until expiration. I could do things like selling puts where my risk is practically unlimited. I know it's not technically unlimited, but I say unlimited because let's face it, if the stock goes to zero, it's going to feel like it was unlimited risk, right? And we're just going to lose so much, I'm going to get punched in the nose. But I have limited reward. I have limited reward with butterfly too. It's a higher probability trade selling the put. Right? So what is the best choice in this case? Honestly, if my forecast is, if I really think that the stock's going to go up to 195, within 10 or 11 days, whatever the trade was, it is the butterfly. Risk the least and percentage-wise can make the most. Now you might say, oh yeah, but on this 192 call, I could make $4 or something if it's above 195, $5, $6. That's way more than this $2.26. But you trade like two butterflies or three butterflies, and you're still risking massively less. So with the butterflies, because as you get closer to the expiration day, the theta can get better, and especially with the directional one, you're risking so little. You do need to hold it until pretty close to expiration. Remember, the delta is super small. You're not just making money on delta, you're making money on direction and theta. If the stock falls, I'll probably cut my losses and sell it for about a 50% loss, but 50% of pennies is nothing, right? If the stock, and don't forget that theta is negative, but it's super, super small. And the small delta means a big, big adverse move doesn't really hurt that much. To take a 50% loss on this, you're going to have to hold it for a long, long time, and the stock's going to have to go down a lot, or the stock's going to have to go down a lot. So if you're managing properly, it's almost hard to lose 50%. You'd want to be out of that trade long before you're down 50%. If the stock rises too much, then I can manage that too, right? Because remember, if I overshoot, I lose, but I can roll the call credit spread up and roll it into what? Condor, right? So let's talk more about the Greeks. I've been throwing these Greeks terms around, and I know that most of you are familiar with the Greeks because I've done some Firstrade seminars on the Greeks. But like I said, I see some new names here, so maybe not everybody's all that familiar with it. Delta measures my directional exposure. When the stock goes up $1, how much do I make on my option position? That is delta. Gamma is how much my delta changes. And with the butterfly, gamma is basically, you would just think of gamma as the volatility of the stock. It's a good way to think about it. Theta is how much options lose in value as one day passes. And vega is how much the option position makes or loses as implied volatility changes. And here's the great thing when it comes to butterflies is vega barely matters at all. Usually you have to use implied volatility to get edge on your trades, which we've talked about in several of the Firstrade webinars that I've done. Implied volatility and therefore vega can really matter for most of your option trading, but not really so much when it comes to butterflies, which can be an advantage. Hey, implied volatility is too expensive. No, it doesn't really matter if I buy the butterfly. It's super cheap. Doesn't really matter either. I barely even have to look at implied volatility when it comes to butterflies. So let's talk about planning exits and such. We want to plan our profit target and loss taking point. So this is actually this is 3 days to expiration. So I would probably say factoring volatility, in this case, the volatility of the stock, the most I can make on any sort of butterfly is distance between the wing and the guts minus what I pay. But I know I'm not going to make that. If my maximum profit is $2.80 80 cents or whatever, depends on the width of the wings to the guts. If my maximum profit is like $2.80, I'd probably take my profit at around half that. Won't even wait for it to make the maximum profit. But because I'm risking a small percentage of what I can make, then, I set my loss where maybe I lose 50% too. So basically I can lose pennies and make, $1 or something. So let's look at this. Well, actually here, let's go back here for a second. Let's look at the Greeks. Let's get my annotator. I'm in an annotating sort of mood today, guys. I don't know why. I don't even know why. I really don't. Hold on a second. I gotta grab something. And yes, my dog jumped off my lap. I don't know where she went. I gotta grab something out of my bag. I was out of town for like 10 days. I just got back last night. And that didn't deter me from jumping on here to help you and make your trading better. It wasn't a vacation, though. It was a work trip. And so I kind of need a vacation from my trip, But there's no rest for the wicked, is there? No. So let's take a look at this here. Okay. Oops. Got a little dot there. Let's say I buy this one, sell 2 of these, and buy 1 of these. So the easiest way to do this is just to add up what I'm paying and subtract out what I'm collecting. So 383, 783, 783 is the debit that I'm paying, minus 2 times 380 is 760. 760. So what am I paying for the butterfly? 23 cents. Okay, who can tell me what's the most I can make on this butterfly? Who's going to tell me? Who's going to be first? Let's see who's smart. What is the most I can make on this butterfly? Got a small class today, less competition than usual. Nobody? What about Justin, Tomas? Bing, David, right out of the gate. You're so close. You're so close. It's actually only $1.77, right? It's 1 of the wings minus 1 of the wings, so 690 to the guts, 692. So 692 minus 690 is $2 minus 23 cents. So 2 minus 0.23 equals 177. Good guess, David. You're totally on the right track. 177. Good work. Good work. Good work. Good work. Okay. What are my Greeks? Well, it's right. Okay. What are my Greeks? Well, it's the delta So 57.8. 57.8. The well, the guts is the 692 strike. Six 694 minus 690. Where are we getting that from? This is the wing strike, gut strike, wing strike. So it's one of the, the difference between the guts and one of the wings. And they're $2 apart. I'm not sure where you're, I don't know, David. Maybe I'm not sure where you're coming from on this one. But either way, so we're long this delta, and then we're going to be short 2 times this delta. So 49.3 is what? 98.6. 98.6 cents. I got to get one of those things where you can draw with the stylus. I'm using a trackpad, and it's pretty hard to draw using that. So then minus 40.7. 40.7. And this is where, friends, we just use the old calculator. Have I told you how old this calculator is? I probably did. I had this calculator. I bought this calculator probably in 1994 or something, 1993. And the sucker still works. Texas Instruments make pretty good products, I guess. It's like I'm doing a commercial for them. So 57.8 minus 98.6 plus 40.7. Gosh, look at my delta is barely anything. Negative 0.1. So it's a completely flat delta. Theta 45.6. Let's just do it this way. Plus 43.3. 45.6 minus 43.3. No. Add this is what I'm paying. I'm paying this theta, and I'm collecting this theta. So the ones I'm paying, 45.6 plus 43.3 equals minus this one twice. Minus 47.7 equals minus 47.7 equals 6.5 cents. 6.5 cents theta that I'm collecting each day. All right. Let's get rid of this. Boink. Clear all drawings. And let's look at Oops. They're all drawings. Get back to this. Okay. The implied volatility, like I said, really just doesn't matter too much. But here's what's important. When it comes to earnings, if I want to make a directional play on earnings, the implied volatility gets really, really high going into earnings, the shortest term expiration. And then, it starts getting lower the further you go out. If I'm going to buy calls, that can kill my trade, right? Because if I buy the call and let's say I'm bullish on earnings for whatever reason. I buy the call, stock goes up. I make money on what? Delta, but I lose money on vega because the volatility will collapse almost always after earnings. So sometimes you can buy a call before earnings, you can be right and still lose money. But because volatility is muted out when it comes to butterflies, it doesn't matter. Like, let's say, oops, let's say let's look at the Vegas. Let's say I buy, oops, oh, I forgot. I thought I had the annotator on. I'm going to annotate and sort of fella today. Let's say I buy these, sell these, buy these. Oh, look at Vega. Getting long 38 cents a Vega, getting long 37.6 cents a Vega, getting short 38.9 cents twice. I don't even have to do the math. Like you can tell, the Vega is going to be almost zero. But if I just buy the call with a 4-cent Vega, if implied volatility collapses after earnings from 82 down to like 30 or something, which is about right, that's 50 points. So you lose 3.8 cents times 50. 3.8 times 50 volatility points. That's a lot. Wait, 3.8 times 50. You lose $1.90 on Vega alone. You would have to be massively right on that call. I mean, you'll get smoked buying calls going into earnings. But you do a directional butterfly, no problem. And then, back to that. Earnings-based time spreads are a little different. Where, sell these, buy these. So like the 89 strike, right? Sell these at 295. Buy this 89 strike at 345, paying 50 cents. But the implied volatility of the front expiration is going to get crushed more than the back expiration because back expiration is not as high. It's just a very, very different trade. I love to do earnings time spreads But in some cases, the butterfly actually ends up being a better way to do it, whether it's directional or neutral, because you just risk so little. Hey, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions before we call it a day? Anybody? I'll give you a minute here to type. But, oh, yes, we do. John, has your wife accepted yet that spreadsheets rock? Probably not. Probably not. I just love spreadsheets. I just love them. You know, that's how you know. You too. That's how you know I'm a big darn nerd. Steve says, for directional trade, do you just shift the chart to the right? Yeah, well, like, look, here's the important thing. However you come up with your directional forecast or thesis or bias, whatever you want to call it, the key is that the price you think the stock will get to by expiration must be the guts strike, the center strike. It's the top of the TP. And so here's the thing. You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like if you can imagine somebody throws a ball or, swings a bat and hits the ball. It's like somebody gets a big parachute or gigantic sheet or something and is in the outfield with that parachute or sheet, and they're going to catch the ball on it. And so now let's just say it's a parachute because it's bigger, you get a big wide range. So it's not somebody trying to catch it in the glove and, and making the top of the teepee. It's not that the ball has to be at this exact spot when it lands. It's this huge spot. And it's just got to be, the ball's got to be, the parachute's got to be there when the ball lands, right? There's a timing aspect to it, but it can fall on this spot of the parachute, this spot, right in the middle would be great. It doesn't matter. It's this big, wide range. But, if you're the guy directing the team of people holding this big, wide parachute swath, you're going to, like, where you think the balls are going to go, is going to be like the middle of the parachute. So if your forecast of where the ball is going to land is wrong, it could still land on this side or this side or this side or this side. You just got a lot more room to be wrong. Like if you're throwing a dart, you should focus on an exact point on the dartboard. But if you miss a little bit, it's fine. In the case with butterflies, you just got to hit the dartboard. So if you aim for the bullseye, as long as you hit the dartboard, you're in great shape. John, you got to run? Okay, man. Well, thanks for showing up. Steve, thanks for showing up. Everybody, thanks for showing up. And I'm going to be back on my regular schedule next week on Tuesday. So mark your calendars. They're probably marked. Sorry for the folks who, didn't show up today. You can always go to Firstrade's YouTube channel and catch the archives. So that said, Have a great rest of your day, friends, and I will see you in 6 days. Bye.